Welcome, everyone. This is Gwydion, and today is another official Blackoath Entertainment game overview. As many of you know, either Alex T or I try to put out a video once a month for the Blackoath Entertainment channel, focusing on one of his games. And last month, Alex asked me to take a look at Salvage and Sorcery. He just felt like I think it was one of his games that I believe might have been one of his first games. And I think he has a very soft spot in his heart for this one, and felt like it would be a good one for me to cover. So I have not dived into this one a ton yet. So you'll get kind of a flip through like you would if you were just kind of flipping through the PDF yourself or the book. So the one thing I would say is when I've read some of the background that or comments that Alex has made on Salvage and Sorcery, he talks about Caernarfon and Salvage and Sorcery as being his two dungeon crawlers. So that's interesting to me because I'm a big dungeon crawl guy. So let's just dive in. So Salvage and Sorcery, Scraphounds of Cygnus. And this is a science fantasy game of magic and mayhem. All the art in all of these games, of course, or the Blackoath games are just amazing. No, I'm biased, but I have to say that. So in this case, it looks like interior art was done by William Liberto, Saga Design, Kuveca, and Geraldo Prado, excuse me. And there's some other folks here. Obviously, if you all are interested in supporting Blackoath more, take a look at the Patreon. Nothing that is required, but I'm a Patreon, full disclosure. I like supporting Alex T, so just something that you might want to consider if you want to support Alex further. So not everyone likes this, but the way I like to go through things, I just like to go through based on the table of contents. Makes it easier for folks to go back and look at the sections they want, as I'll leave bookmarks, but we're going to go through it that way. So just so you understand the timing here, we'll go through creating your character, basically, which is called a Scraphound. We'll go through the core rules, playing the game, creatures, so the bestiary, and then we'll touch on, and I'll make it relatively quick at the end, loot and gear, and the appendix, which talks a bit about the setting and how to run a game. So let's dive in. Look at that. Man, it's like a huge battle tank. I love it. All right, so the basics of the game. So you are a Scraphound working aboard the Reclamation Corps in a giant pile of junk known as Thanatos Station. Your home is Oblivion's Edge, which is a dying star system choked by warp storms and populated by fractured spacefaring empires. And I know the warp storms can cause corruption, which is cool. We'll get into that. But the station itself orbits Cygnus, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, which is a ravaged planet where techno-barbarians and mutated creatures lurk. Love that. So you'll run into NPCs, player characters, and different attribute scores, of course. And this is a squad-based action game. So at the core of it, there's a brutal, like, squad-based combat system. And I believe, yeah, here it is. You can play as a single player, but you're still part of a 4-person squad, the Reclamation Corps. So I believe you do play with 4 different individuals. Simple system, you can see at the bottom here, it's a D6 dice pool system. And you'll be trying to roll with your pool above a certain number, typically above a 4 as a success. And there's a little more information on Oblivion's Edge, Cygnus, Thanatos. Talks a bit about themes, desperation for survival, lost knowledge, fading light. So I don't want to spoil everything. Again, another incredible image. I love this. I don't know what it almost reminds me as a cross between like a white, a cool, but in a techno type world. Very, very nice. Creating your background. So there's a little bit of a story, which Alex does this sometimes, and I love that. But a little bit of a story that I'll let you read on your own. I don't want to spoil that. Then you get into your background. So you can roll on the background table. So some of the backgrounds would be formal noble of House Helios, disgraced arcane technosis acolyte. I love that. That's a mouthful, but I love it. So I believe this is a D20 table. So again, I don't want to spoil all this for you, but a lot of options on the background. Attributes and characteristics. So some familiarity here, but there are some things that might be just a little bit different. So you have agility, So something akin to a dexterity, intelligence, luck. I always like a luck mechanic. Melee combat, perception, ranged combat. So they do split. It's not just like a strength dex. You have melee combat and ranged. You do have strength and willpower. And you have some secondary characteristics such as armor, carrying capacity, corruption, resistance. As I mentioned, you can get corruption, and we'll talk about that as we get into some of the mutation discussion. You'll have a defense, determination points. So that they're a resource that must be spent during a mission. So we'll touch on that when we get to it. You'll have health, initiative, mutation threshold, which is how much corruption your body can hold before being affected by it. Then you also have a shield mechanic, it appears. Then you get into careers. So careers are somewhat akin to like what you might know as like a class. So regardless of who you were you can't be proficient in everything. So you've got to choose a career. And I think there are 4 careers here. And we'll go through each of them just at a high level. So the way this works is you start at level 1. New characters receive a talent point to spend on a tier 1 talent. And then each time you level up, you get a talent point to spend on your career's upgrade tree. And it's kind of a progression. So you have to, I think, either max out or maybe have the talents from a previous tier to get to the higher tier, I believe. And the highest level you're going to get is 10. I enjoy that because to me as a solo player, I can get up to the higher levels, the highest levels in the game pretty quickly. I really enjoy that. And then you're also, as you level up, you will be able to roll on the character improvement table. So it'll give you a random addition to one of your attributes, I guess primary or perhaps secondary. All right, so the first career or class, Tech Knight. Again, really cool image. I love the red. It looks almost like blood on the sword at the lowest end toward the hilt. Very cool. So a little bit of a description of what the Tech Knight is. And then you have a bullet points of key features, keyword, and then some of their features. Theric Exoshell Mastery, Eldritch Arcblade Prowess, Techno Ritualism, Code of Honor. Awesome. And then I always love, and I think you all are pretty familiar, Alex puts great tables in most of his games. I see something similar to this. So you have a really quick and easy way to know what your stats are. So you have health, melee combat. So you're seated, it looks like, with some basic scores in all of these. And then it goes into a little more detail on each of the features. And also, see, you gain certain benefits when a Tech Knight is chosen as an NPC escort. Okay, interesting. You have starting gear. So you already have gear, so pretty simple to start up right away. So here's the upgrade tree, and you can see that it's tier-based, and then it looks like it's also built off of your features that we went through before. Love that. So it looks like there's 5 tiers on this page. Again, I'm just flipping through this. So I like that. I mean, there's a lot of detail, but it also is pretty straightforward and simple. Warp Weaver. That looks like almost a techno necromancer. Love it. So they are individuals who have learned to harness the eldritch energies of the warp storms that plague Oblivion's edge systems. Nice. So again, I don't know what the keyword symbolize, but we'll find that during the game. But this keyword is eldritch, and then different features: reality distortion, vision and intuition, artifacts, and foci. Might be pronouncing that wrong. I apologize. And so again, here you're different health, melee combat, more ranged, I think, and probably mutation threshold might have been a little bit higher. And then you get your strength, all of the standard stats. Core ability, warp manifestation. So once permission as a standard action, you tap into the chaotic energies of the warp to produce a powerful but risky effect. Another thing I love in Alex's game, sometimes you can stretch and do something that's more powerful, but there's usually a consequence. I love that in a game that gives you the ability to do something more, but also gives you a potential consequence. You have escort benefits. So again, it looks like maybe you can choose these careers as an escort as well. So maybe as a companion. of sorts. And then here are your starting gears. Again, your starting gear, your upgrade tree. I love, let's see, as you get to level 4, Warp Storm. As an action, all opponents in the zone suffer D6 strikes. Nice. Corruption strikes, Eldritch. So yeah, there's something about the keyword maybe that comes into play. Gunslinger. Like that. I love the mask. You can't really see his face, but and the windswept cloak. Very nice. Awesome. So in this case, keyword is quick. You have precision shooting, evasion. Health is a little bit more, I can tell. I think your perception might be a little bit higher. Range combat is definitely higher. So the stats definitely change based on your career. And again, core agility here is deadly eye shot, dead eye. Short benefits again, if you pick this as an escort instead of a playable character, and your starting gear, those look a little bit different from each career. The table, again, they're all very unique. I love that. Looks really interesting. Master Gunsmith at level 5. Gunslinger's Gambit. You get an extra turn. Nice. And a Scrapper. That reminds, it gives me Fallout vibes there. I like it. They're essential to the survivor. They possess an uncanny ability to see potential in discarding remnants. So almost like maybe an alchemist, like if you're thinking about it for another, like a fantasy setting. So this keyword is scavenger. So they have jury rigging, resource management, crafting. Yeah, very, very cool. Like, so if you don't want to play a real combat focused, and you can see the combat for this individual is 2. So definitely more of a, maybe maybe more of a, not a sidekick, but someone that's more of in a support role is what I'm trying to say. Scavenger ingenuity, again, escort benefits. They can be an escort, and I think everyone starts with these 2x stimp packs, but then these 3 are different in terms of your starting gear. Upgrade tree, so keen eye, field medic, resuscitation. So yeah, maybe a little bit of cleric mixed in there. I'm sorry, my background is fantasy, so I tend to gravitate and try to put some context for myself on what I'm thinking of in this sci-fi scenario. Tech wizard, awesome, I love it. Look at that. Look at that art. That is amazing. And for those of you who don't know, I'll just be really transparent and clear. Alex does not use AI. Period. Full stop. So all of these are from authors that he's engaged for his various programs, his various books and core rules. So attribute checks. So target numbers. So this is based on, I believe, static target numbers. 1s and 6s when performing a checks and rolling a 1 or a 6. Things might change slightly. So for each 1 rolled, it's a fumble and you eliminate a success. For each 6 rolled, it's a triumph. Counted a success as a success and roll again. So a bit of an exploding dice system, it looks like. Awesome. Keep going. Check modifiers. You must add a number of dice. So it's not like a +2 to your roll. In this case, because it's a dice pool system, if you get a plus or a minus, you're adding or reducing dice. Usage dice system, again, if you're familiar with Alex T's games, he uses this a lot, which I really enjoy because it's more of an abstract system. So you'll start with a die to signify like the number available in your resource. And if you roll like the lowest, typically, I think if you roll a 1 or a 2, then you get down to the lower die. And then ultimately, it'll tell you that you've run out of resources if you get down to a D4 and you roll a 1 or a 2, I believe. Or something else happens, it triggers something. The golden rules. There are 2 golden rules when playing Salvage and Sorcery. Specific rules override general sense and always round up. That's probably something good to remember. Every system is different, but in this case, always round. So keywords, okay, it does talk a bit about keywords here, and they play an important part in the role, defining the characteristics and abilities, and it tells you a little bit about how keywords function in the game. Identification, they help identify traits or abilities associated with items, events, enemies, or characters. There might be special rules. Simplification, keywords simplify gameplay by providing a shorthand for more complex rules. Instead of writing out detailed descriptions, the game uses keywords to convey important information quickly, like that. And you have determination points. They're a shared pool that each Scraphound contributes to. Initially, a squad will have 4. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so this is a little bit of a system where I'm trying to think of my D&D is escaping me for a moment, but when you can re-roll inspiration, my gosh, that for 5e. So it's something like that. You can roll in any number of dice, help a squad mate from recover from being knocked down, increase the damage of an attack. So there are different functions for determination points. So combat. Combat works as any other attribute. You roll a number of d6 equal to your melee or ranged combat attribute. And if you go over a target number, it's a success. There are some differences, though. You have to be equipped with a piece of gear with the weapon keyword. The check's target number is determined by the target's defense, and every success is a hit. Every hit deals 1 damage. When damage is modified, simply add the modifier to the total damage. Okay, really simple. Any damage marked penetrating ignores both armor and shields of all types. When defense is modified, apply the modifier to your current defense. It means a Scraphound with a defense of 4 plus suffering -1 defense would see it reduced to 3 plus. Okay. And all right, turns and rounds, probably pretty standard. Yep, initiative order. Characters play their turns in initiative order, with those with the highest initiative acting first. When there's a tie, okay. So it sounds like maybe the PCs go first. I'm not quite sure here, but we'll have to see. And then a strike is an attack check that must be resolved as usual. A hit is direct damage, can only be avoided via armor or shields. Okay. Awesome. Armor is simple for each point a creature has. Reduce the incoming damage by 1. Awesome. Scraphounds can make 2 different types of actions during combat. Free actions, cost nothing, and standard actions. All right, straightforward. And then zones. I like this. So it looks like all combat is in a grid, and it's an abstract representation of combat. Player squad starts on the left, so in zone 1, while their enemies start, it looks like a few zones away in zone 4. Every weapon has range. Melee weapons and creatures have a range of 0. That means they can only strike at targets within the same, so not 1 zone away, but within. Ranged weapons have a range of 1 to 3. They can strike targets up to 3 zones away, but a minimum of 1. Unless stated otherwise, you can't use your ranged weapon against a target in your zone. Both PCs and their opponents can move. They can choose to move to one of the adjacent zones. It means that a PC in zone 1 can only move to zone 2. But on their next turn, they can choose to move to either zone 1 or 3, right? Makes sense. If you're overwhelmed, you can always attempt to flee. In order to do so, there cannot be a single enemy on a zone occupied by a Scraphound, and all squad members must pass an ability. Okay? Throwing explosives, you can dual wield, There are ambush attacks. End of combat. Once your opponents have been defeated, you can take stock of your situation. You recover a little bit of health. That reminds me of Kernathalis, where you have a little bit of recovery there. Write down your XP gains and roll for loot. There's a combat description here that you can read through. And then conditions. Sometimes you'll have conditions during a fight. So things like blinded, burning, knockdown, poisoned, stunned. And I like that. There's enough, but there's not too many that it gets overwhelmed. Knockdown Scraphounds. When a Scraphound reaches 0 health, they are knocked down. Friendly character can spend 2 actions and 1 determination point to help get them up. All right, that sounds pretty brutal. I love that enemy there. 2 heads. Nice. All right. So it looks like maybe there's a wound consequence table. I missed that. Yeah, maybe this D20 is a wound table and a consequence from a wound. NPC's escorts when playing without a full party of PC, you can still must have 4 Scraphounds. So for each NPC, apply to your character, the escort benefits. If you're playing with 1 to 3 PCs, it's up to the player to decide how to distribute the benefits. Okay, so a little bit of a description of if you want to only play 1 full PC, you can add NPC exports or escorts as companions. Corruption, so again, exposure to warp storms and decaying worlds can slowly corrupt you. Any hits that go through are accumulated as corruption points. And you'll be, I think at the end of a mission, you have to roll a target number. Sorry, you have to roll against your corruption resistance. Each failure grants you 1 mutation point. So there are some effects. And here are those effects. And again, a d20 table. Nice. I like that. That's awesome. All these undeadish creatures look like they're coming up against this guy who's wielding a huge gun. Playing the game. All right. Exploring a mission site. So you're going to be mapping a site, maze-like underground. I think this is going to be procedurally generated. Yep. So they'll drawing different areas and boxes, area connectors. I'm just going to skim through some of this. All right. So it tells you like simple hallways, stairways going up, area exploration, encounters. You might have locked access points, and you might have to do something with an intelligence check to open that locked point. Generating ciphers, that's cool. So it's definitely an intelligence check, and you're trying to determine the code. You'll have different door types. Maybe there's alternate access points if you can't get through a door. There's some events that happen as you're exploring. You can potentially retrace your steps. You might be able to scavenge an area that you're in. And then mission goal. First thing you need to know when preparing for a mission is what's the goal. So you'll roll on this table to determine your goal. And then depending on what you roll, there's a little more description of each of the mission types. It tells you what you need to do to achieve success. Rescue, sabotage, okay. Extraction, when a mission's over, a squad must find their way back to the shuttle so they can leave. Usually the shuttle will land as close as they can. So it might be a little far away and a little harder to get back to, perhaps. Once you know the mission, you must learn where the mission is taking place. So that's cool. There's a d20 of different mission sites. Abandon. Oh, it looks like wow, that's very cool. Each of these has a bit of a background to it and different things that you might encounter, different events. So a D10 event for you. Wow, that's awesome. So each one of these has a description of what you're going to find as well as the potential encounter. Very nice. I love the colors here too. The black and the, I don't know, purple fuchsia. All of these have different events. That's really cool. A crumbling orbital defense platform. Nice. Beasts and raiders, mutants and raiders. So definitely a lot of raiders, but there are some cultists, demons. Wow. Yeah. And a lot of tables. Alex does such a good job with all of his tables. Love it. Man, look at all of it. Dang. Wow. That looks cool. Looks like those could like pulsate and burst at any time, throwing acid on you. I don't know if that's what happens, but that's what I envision happening. All right, creatures. So we're into more of the bestiary now. And let's see, I didn't look too closely at the initiative. I apologize, but let's see what this says. This might tell us a little bit more. So during combat, players have no control over what the enemies do. They will spawn on 4, will rush as fast as they can towards Scraphounds. Once in melee range, they will simply attack. Ranged creatures will stay in their zone, firing at their target. Okay. During their turn, enemy creatures will simply attack. All right, so pretty straightforward. Enemies will attempt to distribute themselves evenly among the BCs. All right, so they're not going to gang up on anyone. And I do think the players go first, but we'd have to look at that again. So enemy scaling. So each creature has a scaling table. Nice. So they do get stronger to grow with you. And there's a loot table. There's leaders, probably a little more powerful, perhaps. There's hordes. So if you think about like swarms in D&D or other systems, nice. Dealing with the horde. Hordes have different behavior than opponents. As usual, the horde starts at zone 5. Oh, well, maybe it does tell you the initiative. So this says a horde's initiative is 5. So I want to look back in a second. Did this say, and maybe, let's just wait. Maybe there probably is as we get into. Let's look at the creatures. So let's just read this a little bit more. Variety of threats, key features, extreme adaptation. Rapid and bizarre evolutionary changes, diverse threats, unpredictable behavior. So there's probably a table, potential value. And then beasts, all beasts have the beast keyword. So I think this is telling us, yeah, here we go. Beast encounter, here are the different types of beasts. There's a leader, stone colossus, threatening enormous size. This does have an initiative, so I think you do roll all of these except for something like health, but should mean the number of dice you roll. So defense die, initiative die, and armor, I'm actually not sure. I think that's just a flat number that you would subtract. I think that's what it had said. But strong melee combat for the leader for sure. And they're scaling. I skimmed over that, but here's the chthonic grappler. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but again, fair bit of description, which I love. Some of the basic they can make, or I guess special attacks. They're roll, the number you'll encounter, and then again, the die rolls here, but it does have initiative. So I might have been wrong that you do have to roll for initiative to see who goes first, perhaps, between the characters and the creatures. All right, so Land Kraken, Nightwings, Brad Weaver, love it. Rust Ape, and I think these are all Void Stalker. Yeah, so those are all the beasts. Now cultists have their own little description here, and their key features are going to be different, obviously, than beasts. So you'll have that, and then you'll have, looks like all of these will have a leader, and then you'll have a number of different types of cultists underneath that. So a lot of diversity in cultists and all of these different creatures. Fanatics, harbingers, heretics, lore keepers, ritualists, soul snatcher, void archer, void touch thrallus, warp acolyte. Oh man, I love that. I don't know if you if it's immediately apparent, but he's got a right hand is like skeletal and his leg is like some sort of weird peg leg, but then he's got what appears to be a quote unquote normal. Somebody in the comments probably going to call me out on that. I guess it doesn't look super normal, but it looks like it's an organic hand, maybe. And possibly, I don't know if this leg is organic or not, but I love that. Demons, okay, a lot of different features for the demons. Their leader is Goliath. Huge, towering demons. Corruptors, hellhounds, nice. Imp swarms, infernals, ruptured imp. I might have to play this game. I'm not always a sci-fi guy, but this looks super cool. Oh man, look at that. It almost looks like a braided, I don't know how to describe this, but or almost like there's wriggling masses of other snakes within this. Very cool. Mutants. So the next group, Carnage Tyrant is the leader. Magmorphs, Necromutants, Nexus Ravagers, Pit Brawlers, Reavers, Scaled Lurkers, Skitter Morph Scavenger, Smasher, Whisper Flesh Infiltrator. Awesome. And then another like Fallout-ish type of humanoid-ish. I don't know. Oh, maybe he's a raider. That would make sense. So key features. Leader is Quick Draw Viper. So I won't read all of these. I've been doing that too much, but I'll just let you look at each of these names. And the tables, again, a lot of detail, but really easy to read. I love how it's all makes it really simple as a player. Like another raider there, maybe. Some loot you might come across. Loot and gear. Here we go. So there are a number of gear slots. I like that. It will make it simple from like I think an encumbrance standpoint. You can only probably fill what's in each gear slot. Sigils. So some Eldritch energy that you can attach to a piece of gear. Grimoire. So maybe a little bit like a spellbook or something like that. Or a grimoire. I guess it's called that in fantasy as well. Keyword requirement. Although all gear pieces possess descriptive keywords, others possess keywords act as prerequisite. Got it. Purchasing and selling. So some descriptions on how you do that. Purification. Cleansing. Healing, cleansing, recovery, requisition office. So I like that's probably where you go to purchase, and maybe you can store some gear there and loot boxes. So different gear. Look at all this gear. I love it. Wow. A lot of different gear. And then you're going to have a description for each. So he put a lot of love and care into the amount of gear. This is a lot more respect in this. Very, very cool. Look at all this gear. Artifacts. ancient powerful items. So this is going to be like your bigger magic items. And there's 20 different artifacts with their own descriptions here. Appendix. Okay, playing Salvage and Sorcery as an RPG. So there, Alex always gives some background on a setting, usually enough to give you some shape of the world that you're in, but also, gives you enough openness to take some artistic license with your setting. So I'll let you read through this on your own. And there you go, a bunch of story hooks and adventure seeds. So a D20, another amazing image. That's awesome how the whole outfit blends into the stairs. That's really interesting. The carousing, so I guess maybe there's a carousing table, names, running a game. So a little bit of information on how to run a game and what that looks like. Checks and target numbers, so you can increase or decrease the difficulty level, and that's probably based on your situation. Social checks, okay. So maybe there are some situations where instead of attacking and fighting, you could potentially talk your way through a situation. Oh, nice. I like it when there's a rules summary. So a quick character creation summary, a quick summary on combat. That's might be a page you want to print out and kind of keep with you as you play. And same with the last one, gameplay and exploration. So that's it. I know that was about a half an hour. It's about as long as I want to make these, but I'm really intrigued. Again, I'm not typically a science fantasy type of game guy, but man, flipping through that, like most of Alex's games, whenever I flip through it, I want to play it. So this might be one I'll have to bring to the RPG Frequency channel at some point. So thanks again for watching. If you have any suggestions and what you want to see next, drop us a comment in the video, and we will do timestamps as well, so you can jump to different sections if you'd like. So until next month, happy gaming, everyone.